King Charles under huge pressure to punish brother Prince Andrew after he is named 69 times in damning Epstein docs. King Charles is under pressure to punish Prince Andrew and lands the boil after more lurid allegations of sex abuse were branded the final nail in the coffin. Andrew is mentioned 69 times in new U.S. court papers naming associates of late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The prince, 63, plunged the royal family into a fresh scandal amid detailed claims he took part in an underage orgy and groped a woman's breast while she sat in his lap like Santa. The dossier released in New York includes claims an underage girl was told to give Andrew whatever he demanded while on Epstein's private Caribbean resort on Little St. James, dubbed Pedophile Island. The Duke of York was stripped of his royal roles in shame and banished from public duty by Queen Elizabeth as he paid out millions of pounds to sex abuse accuser Virginia Giuffre, 40, 2 years ago. But dad of two Andrew, who has always maintained his innocence, has crept back into royal life. He appeared with the whole royal family on a Christmas Day walk to church in a shock show of unity. The court papers have led to calls for the king, 75, to take further action and force his brother from his 31-room royal lodge in Windsor and even remove his royal title. Royal commentator and author Phil Dampier said, "This is the final nail in the coffin. If Andrew harbored any thoughts he might eventually come back, this has destroyed these hopes." Writing in The Sun, Charles biographer and royal expert Robert Jobson says, "The king would be wise to cut ties completely with his brother. Andrew is a liability and this scandal is not going away." Norman Baker, former Lib Dem Home Office minister, said, "This needs to be resolved once and for all and this boil needs to be lanced." The 1,000 pages. The 1,000 pages of legal documents discuss an alleged victim referred to as Jane Doe 3, believed to be Virginia Giuffre. The files read, perhaps even more important to her role in Epstein's sexual abuse ring, Maxwell had direct connections to other powerful individuals with whom she could connect Epstein. For instance, one such powerful individual Epstein forced Jane Doe No. 3 to have sexual relations with was a member of the British royal family, Prince Andrew. Jane Doe No. 3 was forced to have sexual relations with this prince when she was a minor in 3 separate geographical locations. In London, in New York, and on Epstein's private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. The files go on. Epstein instructed Jane Doe No. 3 that she was to give the prince whatever he demanded and required Jane Doe No. 3 to report back to him on the details of the sexual abuse. All the allegations are vehemently denied by Prince Andrew. The lurid descriptions appear in previously sealed files from Ms. Giuffre's defamation case against Maxwell, who is serving a 20-year jail term for procuring teenage girls for billionaire Epstein. Acts of sexual abuse. The files add, Maxwell facilitated Prince Andrew's acts of sexual abuse by acting as a madam for Epstein, thereby assisting in internationally trafficking Jane Doe No. 3 for sexual purposes. Among the documents is testimony from Johanna Sjoberg, who was recruited by Maxwell at the age of 20 to work as a masseuse. She describes meeting Ms. Giuffre, Epstein, Andrew, and Maxwell in Epstein's New York townhouse. In a deposition made in 2016, she said, "At one point, Ghislaine told me to come upstairs, and we went into a closet and pulled out the puppet, the caricature of Prince Andrew, and brought it down. And there was a little tag on the puppet that said Prince Andrew on it, and that's when I knew who he was. It looked like him. And she brought it down and presented it to him. And that was a great joke, because apparently it was a production from a show on BBC. And they decided to take a picture with it, in which Virginia and Andrew sat on a couch. They put the puppet on Virginia's lap, and I sat on Andrew's lap, and they put the puppet's hand on Virginia's breast, and Andrew put his hand on my breast, and they took a photo." Asked to provide further detail about how the three of them were seated, Ms. Sjoberg said, "She might have been on his other knee, like Santa." Ms. Sjoberg also explains how Virginia was underage because she was too young to go into Donald Trump's casino in Atlantic City. Ms. Giuffre says she was 17 when she was trafficked to have sex with Prince Andrew. She claims they had sex in a bath at Maxwell's Mayfair townhouse after dancing with sweating Andrew in Faces nightclub. The Duke denies ever meeting Ms. Giuffre and used his Newsnight interview in 2019 to issue an alibi claiming he was at Pizza Express in Woking at the time. But despite the shocking revelations in the files, friends of Andrew reckon they do not reveal anything new. They believe the documents instead lay out in detail the breadth and depth of the relationship Epstein had with U.S. establishment figures such as former U.S. President Bill Clinton. And they claim that Andrew's fleeting association with Epstein has acted as a distraction and a gift to those who had much closer links to him. Police dropped their investigation into Ms. Giuffre's allegations in October 2021. Andrew paid Ms. Giuffre millions of pounds in early 2022 to stop her sex abuse lawsuit going to trial. The latest damaging allegations will be the worst possible start to the new year for King Charles, who tonight remained on holiday with Queen Camilla in the Scottish Highlands. Charles now faces calls to lance the boil and stop Andrew from creeping back into royal life. Nigel Cawthorne, author of Prince Andrew, Maxwell, Epstein, and the Palace, said the Met should interview the Duke over the assault claims, which he denies. Mr. Cawthorne added, he used the Bank of Mummy to get out of the Virginia Giuffre case to avoid going to America where he could have cleared his name. The police should investigate as there is plainly more evidence coming out in these documents. Prince Andrew and Buckingham Palace did not comment.